Oh my God, you guys are going to be so blessed this week with I have. She's over here smiling all big because you are a light, sis, and I'm really excited and so honored that you're taking time with me to share what you have with the world. And before I get into the interview with her, I just want to give you a little bit about her. She is a design life method master. She is a mind, body, soul connector and feng shui master. That's pretty much what she is. And an interior designer, entrepreneur. Her brand, Soul and Space Alignment, or her product is the Soul and Space Alignment. And she's a phenomenal woman, instructor, teacher, and extraordinaire. And I'm so excited to have her on the show tonight or today. Please welcome Miss Krystal Holm. Krystal there.
Looking forward to this all day. This is like the end of the day. I'm on East Coast right now, so for me, this is end of the day time. I'm like, okay. I've been looking forward to this all day. Woo!
Me too. I'm so excited to have you. Man, this is so great. I was on the marketing video. I don't even know if I did this, but when we had our guest review call, you said some pivotal things to me, and I completely shifted my space with what you told me, girl. And I had some serious transformation happen when I did that. So that's why I'm so excited for her to share her expertise, because if she can do it for me and she can give me her expertise and give me some good energy, she can do it for you. So you guys make sure you watch until the end because you're really, really going to be blessed with what she has to say. So Krystal, let's go ahead and start. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you started, what makes you passionate about what you're doing right now?
Oh gosh, my story goes. Every part of my story seems to go all the way back to my story. My story is all these little pieces and parts that I picked up sort of along the way of getting here, right?
Yeah.
I actually I was introduced to energy work, first of all, as a pretty young kid. My parents got divorced when I was 8, and they both remarried by the time I was about 9. And it was, in fact, my stepmom that introduced me to energy work when I was 9 years old. My mom and my stepfather, I actually grew up in a pretty highly abusive home. So I had a lot of limiting beliefs that were put on me at a very, very young age. I was kind of, I was pretty much told I was never going to amount to anything more than a housewife.
Ooh.
Right, if I was lucky enough to snag a man, but I better have all these other qualities in order to get one of those. And but I had huge dreams of what I wanted to, I wanted to change the world. I wanted to do something that mattered. And I tried numerous businesses over the years to figure out really what was my purpose, what was my soul's calling, what was I really here to do. And but the one thing that always held true was I loved to decorate. I loved to design space. My favorite toy as a kid was Barbie's dream house. I would play with my dream house all the time. I wouldn't even play with Barbie. I would just rearrange Barbie's furniture all the time. I was, just loved hanging out with the furniture. I would rearrange my room. I would rearrange my friends' rooms. When I got into high school, we would do that. We would have rearranging parties on the weekends. It just sort of became part of a gift that was just sort of my gift, being able to create these spaces that let you feel safe or, let you feel like you. Those spaces that really speak to you. And so as when I went back to school to get my degree, I chose interior design as my specialty. And so as I was going to school, I had sort of always had this side path of energy work with it, but not they weren't all meshed together. And so when I was in college, in my psychology class, actually, it was that our teacher required us to write a psychology paper on a topic that was related to our field of expertise. So psychology and interior design for me. And so I ended up choosing feng shui. It was something I was super curious about, but hadn't really dove into it a lot, at that point. And so me being that super type A personality, I was determined to get an A on my college paper. I went to the public library. I picked out every single book they had on feng shui. It was like a 2-foot stack of books that I came home with. And I was like, read every single one, studied them all, wrote out a great paper. And I got my A, and I had no clue what any of it was about, because it was more confusing than ever. Like, it wasn't helpful. And so I was still pretty, I was in the middle of school, so I was still focused on the interior design part. But that assignment triggered something in me to want me to dive in deeper. And I continued following actually my interior design passion, and went into that career. Found myself working at sort of in the interior design industry. It would be like the top tier of that industry, right? I worked in high-end residential design, and I worked with a lot of entrepreneurs. I worked with a lot of millionaires. I got to see a lot of insight into how they live in their space. Like, what do they do different than the rest of us? Like, what is the behind the scenes stuff that is not even things that you talk about, just it's in your being, right? And so as my career led me there, a lot of those people, I was living in Hawaii at the time, and a lot of our clients then would ask for feng shui. There's a huge Asian population in Hawaii. And so a lot of our clients came from a background of already knowing feng shui and having it be such a natural part of their life. So I really got to dive in more and be like, oh, let me really look into it. So I went back to school again to study feng shui. And when I eventually left, we'll just say I left, I moved back to the mainland, and I was hurt at my job, and I couldn't walk. And so I wasn't able to work. So I sort of left my job rather suddenly. I left even my ability to work rather suddenly. And I was just sort of stuck at home on bed rest. And I figured this was actually the perfect time to start my business again, right? To give it another shot, to do what I really wanted to do. And I still wasn't 100% sure about all those pieces, And so I hired a coach, and I started sort of doing all the things. And I felt like I was just getting more and more stuck. Like, it was just getting harder and harder. And I just wasn't quite getting it. And at the same time, my body was getting worse and worse and worse. And I was just sort of stuck at home with, much like this last year, actually. For me, that whole trauma sort of situation happened for me in 2016. And it took a little bit of time for me to finally throw up my hands and be like, I can't keep doing all of this. I mentioned that I'd grown up in a very abusive home. And so I never had learned anything about self-care, ever. Work always came first. Work, sacrifice, those sort of things always came first. So even after I hurt myself and I was on bed rest and not able to walk, my biggest priority was still trying to grow a business. And trying to make money, trying to survive. And I was never actually putting my health first, my self-care first. And as I was getting worse and worse and worse, my business was also not going anywhere. And so finally I reached a point where I was just like, I can't keep doing it. And I put my business on hold. I sort of just was like, it's got to sit here because I got to focus on me. I can't, this business doesn't do anything without me. Like my life doesn't happen without me. Like, and if I can't walk and I'm just going to spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair, I wasn't ready to give up on all of my dream and to try to just, like, it wasn't happening. So I put everything on hold, and I actually took all the things that I knew from all of those various background pieces, and I decided to do what I had witnessed my clients do, and that was to create a space, like a self-care space for me. That was very, very specific for my healing of my body so that I would be able to walk again, if nothing else. Yeah. And the strange thing was, I took my skills as a feng shui master and was like, how do I superpower this space? You know, so I really get the most out of this sort of self-care practice, because I was battling with the insurance company. And if you've ever had to fight with workman's comp, girl, let me just tell you, they will beat you into the ground and take you down to worthlessness because you are nothing but $1 to them, less than $1. Like, you are just bottom line. You don't need to go to that doctor. You are just fine. Like, I'm in a wheelchair, and you know, this is not fine with me. Like, I get that you know, you don't want to spend your $100, but me spending the rest of my life as a result of that, I was not okay with. And so I fought back, right? I started taking care of myself. I was like, I'm on my own. And I picked up my pieces like I've done many, many times. And I started my own self-care practice and amplified it with the feng shui piece. And it took about 6 months. And all of a sudden, I started noticing, well, that's actually not true. I had been doing yoga for about 1.5 years.
Yeah.
But when I finally shelved my business and said, I'm going to focus only on my self-care practice, and my business can wait. I need to focus on healing all of this other stuff first.
Yes.
From that point is where it took about 6 months.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So, and by that 6-month time, I had like shifted something. That healing journey allowed me to shift something inside, and it just got everything unstuck. There's so much clarity around, what do I really want to do? What is really my purpose in the world? And a friend came to me and was asking me about a self-care space, actually. And I was like, I can help you with this. I know, you know, she had a coach tell her to create a space, and she had made one, and it just wasn't like, it wasn't doing it. It wasn't. And by this point, I had not missed a single day of self-care in over 2 years. And I was like, I know I can help you. Let me help you. Let me figure this out, and then help you create a space that really does empower that practice for you. Because what is so true about those of us that are on this sort of spiritual, woo, practical kind of entrepreneur journey is that when life gets big and business gets big and everything gets in the way, it seems like the first thing that gets dropped by the wayside is that self-care practice. And so I actually ended up creating my program that is, well, not even creating it. I'd already, I ended up renovating it. That's the word I want. I gave it a makeover, and I took trying to help everybody down to, I just want to help these people. I want to help other women like me that have that that big vision, that want to change the world, that are still stuck in that story, and it's holding them back from really seeing that big dream and reaching that big dream. And because they're always putting everything else first, including their business, they themselves, who and that's the funny thing, right? You're the asset. The business doesn't run without you. There is no vision without you. So, and to be able to help them create that, design that space, design that life. And I ended up creating my signature method, which is the designed life method, mind, body, soul, home. And we incorporate feng shui as a tool to declutter your mindset. And then to sort of what I call design your evolution into becoming that next level version of who you're trying to get to. Because there's the who you are now, and there's then that woman that you are trying to get to that has that business up in lights, you know, that life that has been in the back of her mind for so long. And that is designing that and designing it right into the fabric of your existence, which is your home. That is an extension of who you are as a being.
So I have another question now, because, you know, what you've been saying this whole time, I've been listening very intently, and it's like there's something bubbling up in me, because when we talked that day, you told me about how feng shui works, and, you know, how the energy flows in your home, depending on it's a reflection of you. It's like this inner reflection that you're seeing in your house is a representation of you and what's going on in your mind. And see, I'm listening. And when you told me that, it was like this, something clicked. And, you know, where I am right now, I was able to organize my space in such a way where things started to flow differently. And I started to see things in a different way. And there was clarity that came, and there was motivation that came, and momentum that came, and, you know, all of these beautiful things. And I was like,
isn't it awesome?
So I'm completely on the bandwagon with you, Krystal, because I feel like you know, your story, what you have been through, and you know, your knowledge is such a valuable asset for people to have in their lives, especially women with, you know, what we deal with, especially a lot of women who are married with children, families, single, whatever the case may be. You know, this method is so powerful, and it has so much so many beautiful things to really help you out. So I want to ask you another question. We still have about 20 minutes left, so I want to make sure I get all my questions in, because you've been saying some good stuff already, and I'm like, oh, hold on, let me get to my other questions. So what would you say? You know, I've said this so many times, but in every single person, it comes out differently, and I love that. When we talk about failure, being an entrepreneur is probably, you're going to fail so many times. And that definition of failure is going to be personal to each person, because, you know, we have our own definition of success. And some of us even have our own definition of failure. Even to somebody else, it could be completely, that wasn't a failure. That didn't seem like failure to me. But because sometimes we hold ourselves as our worst critic sometimes, and we have so much negative self-talk, and it's like we have to overcome ourselves in this process of becoming this highest version of who we have truly been called to be. So what has been something that you feel like you had failed in, quote unquote, and what did you learn from it?
Oh, man, I had lots of failures. I've had so many. Like, seriously, you don't get anywhere without them. And that's probably the big thing. That is probably the biggest thing I've learned is that you have to fail. This idea of, first of all, this idea of I'm going to try it once and get it right on the first try.
Come on.
Yeah, not so much. Not happening, you know, or you got to get the straight A the first time around, you know, like it's not going to happen. You are going to fail over and over and over and over again. You know, the key is you just got to keep on trying. You got to keep going because you're never starting again from scratch. You are always starting again from experience.
Come on.
You know, where my company is now is nowhere near what it was in 2016, even where it was in 2018, even, you know, or 24. Like I could go on and on. I've had so many companies. My first company I started when I was 6, and it was shut down. You know, my first customer's mom got really mad when I cut her bangs. Let me just tell you. And closed it down. But I mean, like, you gotta keep trying. That would be my biggest failure if I quit.
Come on.
If I quit, that would be a failure. I have failed a lot. I have never been a failure.
Thank you. Come on.
But it took me a long time to take that in or to even understand that there is a difference.
Come on.
I remember the day I read that. Like, I have failed is not the same as I am a failure. And like, I literally felt it physically in my body. Like this, like it was a wake up call to be like, oh, okay. Because I was taught always that if you failed, you were a failure. They were the same. And they're not. And there was no failing. There was, you do it right. You do it right or else. Like, and so you learn to be that, but you have to unlearn to be something else. Because you're not a failure. You've just failed a lot. That's okay. Like you have to. That's how you learn. That's how kids learn to walk. That's how kids learn to talk. It's how we learn to do everything.
Thank you. Thank you. I love it.
What we get shamed for is asking for help.
You better talk about it.
Ooh, yes.
Oh, what you just said right now. Expound on what you just said, because I think that's a powerful, that's a powerful insight that you just said.
We do. We get so shamed for asking for help. It's okay to not know something before you know it. Like we get shamed for that.
Yeah.
It's funny. I had my very first coach that I ever hired. And let me tell you, I did not. This was not a cheap investment, right? You know, you pay close to $10,000 to work with somebody, and then you're too afraid to ask them a question because you don't feel worthy of asking them a question because you should already know the answer. That's shame right there. And that is going to hold you back. But it's something that you were taught, and it's something, you know, from somewhere way back as a child. You have to unlearn that, and you have to know it's okay to not know something before you know it, because you don't even know what you don't know yet. Like there's a whole big world out there. And this entrepreneur game is a long game.
Yes. And, you know, I think it's so important. This is kind of leading into my next question. So you can't think that, you know, what am I trying to say? It's kind of like, you have to realize that there is a lot of help and that there's a lot of resources and that you're going to have a lot of questions, and that's okay. Because we're all going through this journey of trying to find who we are. And in order to try to find who you truly are, you're going to have questions along the way. You're going to need assistance along the way. You're going to have to pull resources along the way. And if you're afraid to do that, you're never going to get anywhere, because that's the part of understanding that we're all connected in a way, like, and we all are going to benefit from one another. And we can't be stingy to think that we can't give to other people or to help in some way. And it doesn't matter what it is. doesn't even have to be money. It's just giving your wisdom, giving your time, giving your talent. You know what I'm saying? There's so many different ways that we can help one another. And so that leads me into the next question I had for you. What were some of the biggest resources that you think that you've learned from, or that you've been able to pull from as an entrepreneur? Like, any books, people who've inspired you, things like that.
Oh man, I read a lot. I read a lot. I'm a pretty fast reader. One of my favorites is called Chief Maker. Greg Layton, I think is his name, the author. I really like that book, Chief Maker. It's all about, and it's actually, it was strangely enough, it was recommended to me by another CEO who had read it. And the book is written for those people climbing the corporate ladder to get to the C-suite.
Wow.
And what I have discovered is, even from the other end, which is why this woman had recommended it to me, being in the C-suite, if you read it as almost like a manual, it really helps you in elevating you and then elevating your support team, because we don't ever get there by ourselves. Right. You have to have your support team in your business and in your home, but you got to know what to look for, and you got to know how to support them, and you got to know how to up level them, right? You got to find the right people to be able to surround yourself with. So that one I felt was actually a really good one as far as a resource for the being, right? Becoming that next level, just because it's all about changing your perspective and your way of thinking.
Yes.
We've been trained since birth to be employees and to think with a sort of that sort of mindset. But when you are an entrepreneur and you are sort of creating your own landscape, right? You're creating your own wealth. You're creating your own livelihood. I totally lost my train of thought.
No, I get it. You're completely,
you have to think totally different. Yeah, it's a whole different, you see things differently. You think about things differently. You know, when I was staring at the, bottom line of an insurance claim all the time, that was just about how much money they were spending, and had nothing to do with, for me as an entrepreneur, it's like, how am I spending my time? It's the same thing. What is the bottom line? What is the most productive? What is going to get me moved forward without being cruel to myself, without treating myself like I'm not worthy of being that woman who sits in that chair. Like, you got to treat yourself like you belong in that chair, right? If you are the CEO of your life, act like it and treat yourself like it. Because if the CEO doesn't treat herself like she is less than that, like, it's not.
I love it. That's good. That's good. That's so good. Now tell me again, what is the name of the author? Greg what?
Greg Layton.
Greg Layton. Laiten?
I think it's a Y, Layton, and it's just Chief Maker.
Okay. I had to put that in the chat just so that people could see that when they're watching the replay or something. Man, that's so good. I think, I have felt, even myself sometimes, like when I call myself a CEO, or I used to feel like I'm not worthy to call myself that title, or, I had such a lack of self-worth, and that is what World Changer is all about. It's about self-worth, and it's about value. And if you don't have that value within yourself, you got to get it, because it's in you. It's who you are. and it's understanding who you are and going to those depths of self-care in order to realize that.
And decluttering out all of those stories about, it's all, like you were saying, we had talked about before, it's all in your space. Your clutter will tell you all about those worthiness stories, all about those scarcity stories, all about that obligation mindset that you're in. Like, that's all in, it's all right there in your space. That's why some feng shui is such a powerful tool to be able to use as to help you grow into, because it's right there. It's showing you your map, because it's your environment, it's your space, it's your patterns, and therefore it's your mindset, it's your story.
That's your expertise right there. That's your bread and butter. The feng shui, like where's this magic? How does someone access this magic, and how are you going to be this catalyst for it? We need to hear that, because this is good. This is like some good stuff right now. So go ahead.
Well, the really cool thing about feng shui is it's a science. It's just a study of you and your environment. It is the study of your relationship to your environment. We all live somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. Even if you live in a tent under a bridge, you live somewhere, right? And our home, that space that we live in, is an extension of our energy, of our energetic frequency. It's literally an extension of who we are. It's almost like how we dress. We decorate our home as a reflection of our personality. And it should, we want it to say, this is me, this says Krystal, right? Or this says Jeremia. Like, we want it to be our space. But the funny thing is, it is a reflection of you. A lot of people make this mistake and start believing that your home, your environment, you are a reflection of your environment. No, it's the other way around. You can look in your environment and you can look at your clutter specifically. This is why I always start with decluttering, and why I love talking about clutter, is because when you start with it, you can actually see what it is that you believe. We always talk about these limiting beliefs. We talk about mindset. We talk about limiting beliefs. We talk about all the things that are holding us back. But you can literally see the physical manifestation of what those beliefs are when you start looking at the space that you inhabit. So if you've got scarcity stories, you will have scarcity clutter showing up, right? If you've got worthiness, if you're struggling with worthiness, I promise you're going to find worthiness clutter. And if you've got obligation, you're shitting on yourself all the time, you're going to have obligation. And they're very insidious, but you can find them in your space, declutter them out, because if you don't love it, use it, or need it, it's clutter. Right? We've been talking about how you are the CEO, right, of your life. But it's sort of, that old expression about your home is your castle. It is. It's your sanctuary from the world. And you are the queen of your castle.
So true.
So you want to love everything you see. And if you don't, you need to need it, use it, or love it. But we surround ourselves with all these things that we hate, that we don't love, that don't serve us, that make us feel less than worthy, that reinforce our scarcity, and that is the story that gets reflected back to us all the time. See, design is not for who you are right now today. Design is for who you are becoming, because your home is a mirror, and you can either use it as like a 3D vision board to reflect who you want to become, or who you've been up to now. You live instinctively and you keep decorating for who you are now, or you decide, nope, that girl that I'm becoming, she is worthy of this space, and you decorate for her. And that reflection forces her into being. Like, that's That's literally how manifestation works. That's how vision boards work. But why don't you turn your whole house into, instead of having this little, and there's nothing wrong with vision boards, but instead of having this little board above your desk that just shows a bunch of pictures of someday, when we get intentional about designing that whole space today, that space that makes you walk in and feel like, I own the world. This is my space. I feel empowered. I feel strong. I feel the energy of my space lifting me up. I feel my mission pushing me forward. I feel all of that. The momentum builds. When you can walk into that space and grow every day, then that's where you're building a business from. You're going to get a whole lot farther than that space that has been built for who you are up to now, where you're surrounded with almost good enough. Someday I'll buy something better. Someday when I have this, then I will do this so I can be that. And that's not how it works. You got to be her so that you can do the things that she would do, so you can have the things that she would have. That's how you do it. You be her. You give her now, right? You design for her today, so that as you sit in that chair, you just absorb that energy right in and you just become her.
I love everything that you're saying is confirmation, because I believe everything is about intention. And, like literally last night, like I'm about to buy a house. Last night, I went with my sister to At Home, the store. I don't know if you've ever been there. You probably have. You're a designer, so you the store At Home. But anyways, they have some beautiful things to design your home there. And I was just in the section with like all the pictures, like, and I call them portals because I believe that when you put pictures on your walls, those are portals to emotions that you want to feel and experience. And so I went to like me and my niece were like going to all the pictures and like seeing which like energy that we want in the house. Like I want something happy. I want to make sure I feel happy when I put this up in my house. I want to make sure I feel calm and peaceful in this room or that room. So like what you were saying, like that imprinted in my subconscious mind to be very intentional when I'm looking to create my space, because I want my home to be a happy place. I don't want fighting to be there. I don't want, strife to be there. I don't want lack to be there. I only want abundance. I only want love. I only want joy. All of that. I want all the good stuff. You know what I'm saying? So, Krystal, you are, and I just breathe. You're such a gift to the planet. And like, I honestly am so grateful that you spent time with me. We have like 2 minutes left, and I want you to like tell people how to get in contact with you. If somebody wants to work with you, tell us where to find you and all of that. I have your website scrolling. It's been scrolling the whole time, so people know. If they want to email you or get a hold of you that way, let people know how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, if people want to get in touch with me, there are any number of ways. You can obviously reach me on social media. I'm mostly on Facebook and Instagram. I do hang out there. On my website at krystalholm.com. You can reach me at krystal@krystalholm.com if you want to message. And I'll give you a sneak peek because it's Wednesday. But the cart will open on Saturday for the next Soul and Space alignment.
Awesome.
So I'd be happy to give you guys a sneak peek into that one. If anybody knows they're interested in working with me, yes, I'd be happy to do 20-minute phone call for free.
Fantastic. So this will be make sure that you comment on this live. For anybody watching the replay, make sure that you comment on this live. We're going to go through the giveaway Friday. The giveaway will be given, and I'm going to send Krystal. Krystal's going to send me the link to give to the lucky winner, and they will receive that free session, the 20-minute session with Krystal. And then you guys can go from there. If you want to contact her, that is her email or her website information, and they can go to your website and book with you there too. Correct?
They can email me.
Okay, perfect. So awesome. So make sure. Now I'm gonna ask one last question before I let you go, because this has just been pressing me. What's a question that me as the interview that I have not asked that you would have wanted me to ask you?
Oh, that I don't know. You stumped me. You actually stumped me. We even touched a little bit about, decluttering your mindset. We can dive into that one all day long and just talk more and more. I don't know that I have anything specific that.
I feel like you, I guess I probably asked that a little too late, because I think that you really said everything that you was on your heart to say. And I felt like the way that this whole interview just flowed was so perfect. And I really only had I had 9 questions on here. Remember, I already told you I'm gonna just go with the questions. So whatever we get to is gonna be perfect. So again, Krystal, you are amazing. Thank you again for spending time with me. I look forward to more connection with you in the future, because when I do get my house, I do actually want to hire you help me design.
I will be waiting for your call. I thank you so much for having me on. I have really enjoyed every time I talk to you. I enjoy just sitting down and having conversation. Talking story is so fun with you. So I look forward to it.
Awesome. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, make sure that you subscribe on YouTube, World Changer Wednesday. Go to our Instagram, brand new YouTube channel, brand new Instagram. Go and follow us there, and we will see you guys on the next live. Again, thank you, Krystal.
Bye. Bye.